The Finding Purpose podcast is proudly brought to you by Relive the Moments, founded by visionary entrepreneur John Lim. We live in a world where it's easy to capture memories, but Relive the Moments makes it effortless to re-experience and share them. From NFC-enabled tap coasters and photo frames to interactive video cards, Relive the Moments turns everyday objects into unforgettable tap-to-experience keepsakes. Imagine gifting a wedding guest a coaster that instantly opens your highlight reel, or giving your event sponsors a custom frame that tells your story with just one tap. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, planning a wedding, honoring a legacy, or elevating a brand experience, Relive the Moments is the bridge between the past and present, between memory and connection. It's not just a product, it's an experience. Visit www.relivethemoments.com and use promo code PURPOSE for 25% off your first order. Let's bring your memories to life, one tap at a time.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vora, and I'm so grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring the journeys of incredible individuals, people who have faced adversity, found their purpose, and are now making an impact in their communities. But it's also about my journey. Over the years, I've faced my own obstacles, moments of doubt, and struggles with identity. Through it all, I found my purpose in giving back, creating a space where people can detach from the negative emotions and stigmas they may associate with their own stories, just like I did with mine. Here, we have real conversations about growth, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're searching for direction, striving for personal development, or simply looking for a place to feel seen and understood, this is for you. So if these conversations resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Now let's dive into today's episode.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm Adam, and I appreciate you being here. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or watching on the official YouTube channel of the Finding Purpose podcast, thank you for the continued support. If you haven't already, please subscribe, leave a review, and share. It helps this community grow. Last week's episode with Kendrick Constant was all about preparation and discipline. Today's guest brings that same mindset into the world of real estate, media, and modern leadership. Michael Ferraro is the owner of LLA Real Estate Team, leading lifestyle agent team, powered by Compass Real Estate. He's part of the next generation of brokers in Greenwich, Connecticut, known for blending high-level media and marketing with Compass's cutting-edge technology to deliver standout results. Michael has helped set record sales prices on some of the most luxurious homes in Greenwich, earning recognition as a Real Trends ranked agent and becoming a go-to expert in modern homes and new construction. He's also the host of the Leaders of Lifestyle podcast and has built a strong social media presence. A former collegiate All-American swimmer, Michael brings discipline, focus, and consistency into everything he does on and off the market. Let's get into it, man. You know, it's nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been going back and forth. We've been talking. I don't even know how we originally connected.
Sarah
Stone?
No.
Oh.
Bamford?
Sarah Bamford. Okay, yeah. Love
Awesome.
Sarah Bamford.
She's fantastic, yeah.
And I'm glad to finally actually meet you in person. I think we were on, several Zoom calls. We've played phone tag. And now we're, kicking off 2026 the right way. I'd love to kind of really start with just your early journey, where you came from, and you coming up, and then we can kind of go from there.
Well, before we even get into that, thank you for having me. And this studio and this setup is amazing.
Thanks, man.
It's very impressive, and I think what you do is fantastic for all the listeners, and it gives a lot of inspiration for even there's people out there watching your stuff that don't comment, that you should just know that watch your stuff. They get that inspiration out of it, and I'm one of those people. I don't always comment, but I watch.
I appreciate that.
And now I'm honored. So I'm honored to be here. Who am I? Who are we? So I've come from. I'm I'm from a little town upstate New York, exit 18 off the 3-way called New Paltz, little town. My dad was a very successful high school football coach, and my mom was a teacher. And my family's all from the city, from the Bronx on my mom's side and from Yonkers on my dad's side. And yeah, my life journey was pretty much athletics since day one. My dad was, like I said, a very successful football coach, and his father was my dad's assistant coach. And then my other grandfather wasn't necessarily a collegiate athlete at all or went to college or anything, but he was also a coach in his own right. So double sessions for me instead of August vacations a lot of the time. I was a crazy work ethic kid, and sports was the love language in our family. So my dream growing up was that I was going to be like my dad. I was going to be a phys ed teacher and coach sports. And I kind of created an insane work ethic. I grew up, I had an amazing childhood. I had an amazing family, but I was a machine.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always easy. So I didn't have the typical childhood where sports necessarily was like an optional thing. It was very structured. And as I got older, I realized that some of my ability in sports and everything I did, I had to overachieve. So I'm, a 5'8" swimming, ended up swimming collegiately and becoming an All-American. So up against guys, everybody's 6'2", 6'4" from other countries. And so I ended up kind of creating this mindset of just insane hard work and outworked everybody, and got a scholarship to swim in college, ended up becoming a 4-time All-American at Southern Connecticut State University. Had some other colleges I was wanting to look at and do, but that's where I kind of ended up, and got a degree in exercise science, and then a master's in curriculum learning and development, exercise science, teacher prep, and also health and nutrition. And so I became a teacher, and I started coaching the local teams, the high school teams, started winning Coach of the Year awards, and then I grew into getting a position at the New Canaan YMCA, started my own program a little bit before that, but then coaching the national team over there for a while. And I did that all the way up to right as I got into the real estate world. But up to that point, I was an elementary school teacher and a swim coach, and that's kind of what I did and where I came from.
Yeah, I love that. And all right, it's funny because I think a lot of the times when people think about like D1 collegiate athletes, they think about the major sports. They think about college. They think about football. They think about baseball. Sure. They think about basketball.
Sure.
And I have been lucky enough to be around Divisional I athletes who, were doing other sports, and just like the schedule, A, the rigorous schedule you have as a D1 athlete, and B, just how rare it is to get to the top of the mountain being an All-American. Talk a little bit about that journey, because I think that's really important when it comes to how you are able to not only just tackle like a bigger goal, but how it's a daily grind.
I don't think, again, I can't speak for everybody. I know my experience, and I know my growing up experience, I know my collegiate experience, and I know what coaching athletes at a very high level looks like, because I've done it. And I know taking that into the professional world outside of sports. But I can tell you that, like, to give people a perspective of what this sport and what I was a part of. So swimming is pretty much the only sport. It is the only sport where you don't get air when you want it, right? Everything else, you can have air when you want it. You don't get air here. So the training, especially when you go from like 8, you're trying it out, to 12, now I figured it out pretty good, to 14, I have to really do this, to like when I was 16, 17, when I was 17, 18, you're talking about morning workouts, then you're talking about an afternoon after school for an hour and a half, and then maybe a half hour, and then another hour and a half. And that's in high school. And you're training, and I was training in methods that were outrageous. I mean, stuff that nobody else was doing. I was breaking my body down and really hurting it, but doing everything I could to be the absolute best, just to get that position to go to school. And Southern Connecticut State University was a Division II school. I was looking at D1 schools. Mm-hmm. Southern Connecticut State University at the time was offering an opportunity to come in and swim at the national championship level, be a top ranked, go into the national championships ranked number 1 in the country, and then go and swim and compete at a very high level with incredible other athletes. And we had a swimmer on the team with me at that time there was Michael Phelps was 1, Ian Crocker was 2, and he got 3rd at Olympic trials and just missed the Olympic team. and he had so many U.S. records and Division II All-American records. So I got to compete with him and work out with him. And Division II at that time we were the blue-collar guys. Southern Connecticut State University, we were the blue-collar Division II because you could have a lot of international athletes who went to Olympic Games in other countries and then would come and swim in Division II. You can't do that in Division I. You can't do that in Division III. So you could do that in Division II, and it was a different age bracket in there. So I would go to these national championship meets. We were seated first in the country. I'm 18 or 19 years old, freshman, on the block against guys who probably have been in the Olympics in other countries and are a little bit older. And it was an incredible experience. And that college journey, I was a 4-time All-American, and then I was a junior and senior year captain of the team, and finaled in every swimming final that I ever could. And I say that not like boasting, in that the amount of time spent, again, morning workouts, school, afternoon workouts, double sessions. You are 52 weeks in a year, so we swam 50 out of 52 weeks. There wasn't time off. You trained all year round. You swam all year round, and you trained in dry lands, and you did stuff, and so much so that my hair fell out and my eyebrows fell out. I had no eyebrows and no hair, basically. It was all gone because the chlorine was so heavy, and you're just living in that, that we had to date each other on the team because nobody else would date us, because we would look like, walking patients.
Yeah.
But and then you get these relationships. So the amount of work ethic that it takes to run that from like 8 years old to realizing this is what I'm going to do at like 14 to like, I got to get the scholarship, to I got to go. And then, there's people who take it out and become professionals and get paid now, where we didn't really have that back then. But the work ethic and the drive is insane. And I would just say that for me personally, there's so much of the way I was brought up was so perfectly set to do well in that, because I have lanes and I have structures and I have a coach and I have a purpose and I have a meaning and I know what I'm doing every day. It might not be fun every day.
Yeah.
And it might hurt, but it was so, man, I look back on those days and it was so single-minded and focused on the goal. The only issue that I see, and it happened to a lot of athletes, especially athletes who do it that much, Michael Phelps being one of them. It talk about a guy who I trained with, guys that he trained with, and I can tell you at the highest level, and I'm not saying anything about Mike, and that's nothing to do with him, but there are people who have gotten to that level that have a really hard time when that ends, because especially when you're so good at that thing, and then all of a sudden, okay, now real life, and there's no more structure for you, and life's changing, and then you become an adult and you have responsibilities and you get a job and then you have a family. Yeah. And I could say for me personally, a lot of the obstacles that I had to overcome was I still had that killer, psychotic work mindset of that training where you're never off. There's no downtime. And now all of a sudden you have family and just shut it off. Just that's got to go down, and you got to have this and balance and stuff. And then in real estate, now you're your own. I mean, in my 20s, I was coaching, so I never shut off before I met my wife, and I just was working. Friday night, I'd be working out the next practice for the next day, and I was just crazy about this sport, so much so that when I got into swimming, which I met my wife, coaching, met my wife, had a kid, and I realized, we got to do something else, and that's the whole real estate journey. But it had been harder to shut that off because when you're trained that way, that is how I function. Yeah. And now you have to change a lot of that or subdue certain things because that's not what's optimal in life as a person anymore. Yeah. It might have been optimal at that time of your life. It is not. It's actually helps in certain ways, but hurts in certain other ways. So I think that's what's hard for people who do stuff at that level is to turn that on and off. So
so you were saying that like some people when they reach those peaks, it's hard, when it's the end, and you had your moment of reckoning when it was the end, and it included understanding that this new chapter of your life was going to happen with your wife and whatnot. What was that transition like? Because I think a lot of the folks who listen to this podcast may be in a particular career or might be in one season of their life and are realizing that it might be towards the end of it, or are simply unhappy. It's not bringing them the same joy it did when they first started it, and know that they need to kind of hang it up and find a different quote unquote purpose to fulfill them. So what was that transition like for you?
So I get asked to speak sometimes, and I do keynotes and stuff, and I talk about this. This is what I mean, really, for real estate agents and stuff like this, they really care about this stuff.
Yeah.
Especially entrepreneurs. So I coached when I was done swimming, cried my last race, cried my eyes out, but I knew what I was going to do. I was going to be a phys ed teacher like my dad, and I was going to go and do all this other stuff. And then I coached and I taught phys ed all pretty much in my 20s. And I was coaching my high school teams, coaching my club teams, and I was running that. And I had no kids, no wife. That's all I did. What happened is I met my wife, and then we're living in Bridgeport.
What's her name? Just so we her first name.
You mean the queen?
Yeah, the queen, the boss,
the boss, the queen, the best ever, the greatest woman in the world.
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Okay. So you meet Rebecca.
Yeah. So I meet Rebecca teaching. She's a teacher. I'm a teacher. She hates me automatically because I'm like the phys ed teacher, the jock. She's immediately like, this guy's gross. Get away from me. And I think I said something like, hey, do you need something from me? Do you want me to help you with the mats or something? Because she was a University of Bridgeport gymnastics coach, and she was an incredible collegiate gymnast. So I see her, and she immediately was like, no, I'm all set. And I was like, ooh, okay. So I had to go to practice, but I found out after school that day that I was sent up to her classroom to watch her class. Long story short, I'm like, are you going to need me? And she sees me and she's like, yeah, I'm going to need you. And then for like 6 months, she just, it was just like, I knew if I could ever break in, but I didn't know how to break into her, like to talk to her, but she just did not like me. And then something happened with her in her life. And then I didn't see her for a couple of weeks. And I basically was like, is she all right? And then I find out that she's coming back. And my brother was doing gymnastics at the time in college. So I ended up just kind of breaking the ice with her. And I eventually, like, once she kind of just like smiled at me the one time, I was like, I told my mom, I was like, I don't, she hates me, but if I ever figure out a way to talk to her, like really, I'm gonna marry her. And I remember it was like beginning of April, 2011. And I got the courage to ask a friend of hers if I could ask her out one day. And then I just did. And she said yes. And she was like, we can go out as soon as I come back from national. So we did. And then since we went on that date, we never have been apart. She's the greatest person in the world and just an absolute light to the world. She's amazing. She's who everybody goes to. She's the center of attention of everything. She's that person. So the reason I tell that is that's my story, how I met her. But so when we got married, we were living in a condo in Bridgeport.
Okay.
And I was coaching. And then we had our first kid. And so now I remember the day I'm just left teaching. This is K through 5. And I've been full-time now at this YMCA coaching. And I had looked outside, and my son is playing in this parking lot, and there's the bars on the door. And I remember thinking, how the hell did I get here to where now we don't have enough money, even though we have these degrees, we don't have enough money to go buy a house. I mean, we're in Fairfield County. Like I don't have $50K to put down on a house. I can't afford this mortgage even back then.
What year is this around?
This is probably 2014.
Okay.
It's not the crazy high prices, but like we're on a teacher salary and a swim coaching salary, and I just don't. How am I going to get? And my brain's thinking also like that athlete. Like I want this for my family. I want to go for this thing, right? I want to go for the highest, but I have no idea. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't know what to do, but now I'm just getting frustrated, and now it's eating at me. And now I'm realizing I feel a shift in me happening where for the first time in a long time, it wasn't about me wanting to win a championship anymore, and it wasn't about me wanting to do something for this team and this program. It was like, no, that's your team and that's your program and that's it. This ain't about you no more. I was watching Interstellar last night, and you ever watched that movie?
No, I have not. I'm sorry.
Sad. I'm Googling it halfway through. I'm like, does it get any happier? Because this is going to be rough. No, it just doesn't. So I'm watching it, and there's some part.
Justin?
It's brutal. Right. Amazing movie, but so there's one part where he hugs his daughter and he says, a parent realizes that once they have a kid, they become the ghosts of their kid's past because the kid will outlive the parent. So the parent's just living to be the ghost of what they remember of the that's what the whole thing is going to be about. That kid's going to live on longer than me, and however I am right now, I'm the ghost of that memory. So I'm a living ghost of the memory right now. So at the time, I went inside the house, and I'm having that feeling like something is wrong. This ain't about me anymore. I don't know if swimming is. What am I doing? What am I doing? And my wife was watching $1 Million Listing on TV, and she was like folding clothes. My son was outside because my brother was there playing in this parking lot with him, and I was watching a show, and I was like one of the guys, like Ryan Seharian, whatever. This is an old school $1 Million Listing, and it said like shows this guy, and it says like the commission on the bottom. I'm like, what is that? $250,000 the guy just made doing that. What is this show? So I watched it for a couple of minutes, and I'm like, that is what I want to do. And it's just something about what they were doing. They were just out on their own, put the world on their shoulders and taking this career and making money and doing this thing that didn't have a ceiling to it. They could have everything that they want. They got to work for it though. And I was like, interesting. And I was like, but this is good. So, but before I checked on that, I went and checked with like a stockbroker, and that test is way harder. So definitely real estate for me. But so I'm like, okay, that's it. But then at the same time, I also had the other part of me that was like, what are you doing, dude? You just left teaching, and then you're gonna have this full-time job coaching, which you're not making a ton of money, but you're doing this. It's a steady paycheck. You have a kid. You can't be leaving to go do this thing. You cannot be going and putting it all on the line. So I was like, you're right. This is pretty stupid. I shouldn't even be doing this. But then the other part of me was like, what's going to happen in 10 years if we're still in Bridgeport, maybe we get a small little house, we're just making it by, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But then my son ever says, hey dad, like, can we go here? Or, did you ever have a time when you like went for it, or did you have a dream, or I might say to him, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he tells me, and I'm like, well, you could do it. You could do anything if you want to do it. And he says, it was the same thing for you? And I say, no, I could have tried something, but I didn't. And I just couldn't have that conversation in my mind. And I'm like, screw it. Like, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And that's not me normally. I'm more conservative, but I was like, okay. So I went, I learned about the tests, and realized there's a class you could take in Bridgeport. That was the closest real estate school. So I went in there, and I got front row, man. I mean, I am so pumped up to be Superman for my son. Like, I have this thing, like, this is what I'm going to do. And ignorant to everything, but that's what I'm going to do. So I sat in the front row, I had my pencil and paper out. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. Went to go to the class in Bridgeport, and everybody was there just to get the license. I'm thinking I'm selling mansions. Like, I don't know anybody in these high-end places. So afterwards, I go to the guy, and there's a big guy who's the teacher, and he's like, he's like, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, man, I just want to say thank you so much for teaching the class. And I'm really excited about getting this license and selling these different homes. And I'm telling him about all these opportunities I'm thinking. He's like, whoa, time out. He goes, I don't want to curse on here. But he was like, you can?
Yeah.
Okay. He's like, well, why the fuck would anybody sell a high-end home with you? And I was like, shattered. But then I'm like, wait a minute. It doesn't matter what this guy says. I already know my purpose. I already know why I'm doing this. So I went home, and I just like thought about that question. Like, why would somebody want to work with me? And I studied it, and I got the answer that I needed to get. I went back the next day, and I hit him with the answer. And it was like an opening for me of like, I'm going to get asked this question all the time. But now that I realize how to do this in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to be able to do it. Yeah. So I got my real estate license. I had a very high-end client off the rip. I absolutely loved media and marketing and video and content creation and movies. I wanted to be a director a movie director when I was a kid. So I put a lot of that into my content, and then it just grew. And then I got an opportunity, the next thing. And I did a lot of cold calling in the beginning. I had like an hour between, pretty much my son going to sleep, because we couldn't afford daycare. So I would stay at home. I would go morning practice, get up, play with my son. My son would go to sleep. I'd do 2 hours of cold calling, and then play with my son. Then my wife would get home, and I would go back to practice at night. What ended up happening was I got to a point where I was doing really well in real estate, and I was still coaching. And then the day came when it was time to leave the coaching.
Yeah.
And it was a sad day. For a lot of different reasons, and the way it happened was not necessarily the way I wanted it to, but it happened. And it was just a cry fest in front of these kids who were looking at me like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, I've done this since I was 8 years old. I'm like 31, 30. This sport's been incredible to me, but I got to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was so cathartic in a way that it was like goodbye to the sport, goodbye to the people that made it so great, goodbye to the memories. I'll always have them, and all the people that were involved in that. You gotta remember, like, meet after meet, day after day, practice after practice, championship after championship, family members that are not here anymore, that watch things and that were part of things. And that was my entire life. That was who I was.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to say, like, it sounds like it was such a big part of your identity.
Huge, yeah.
And, you know, I talk to people where, you know, they associated so much with their identity, and sometimes they kind of overstay it to the point where, you know, the goodbye does not play out the way that they want. But at the end of the day, once, you know, the Band-Aid's ripped off and you acknowledge that it's over and you come to peace with that, then you're really able to kind of skyrocket in your next venture. You know, it's funny because I've had like several realtors here on the show. I've had Roman Vladimirsky of the Keller Williams team out in, I think they're based in New Rochelle. And then I've had, you know, last week I had Moose from the agency in New Canaan. Yeah, and that's my guy. And,
yeah.
You know, the one things that you guys all talk about is not even the homes as much as it is the marketing. Mm-hmm. And, like, let's talk about that because I think that's really important. Because you did allude to the fact that, you know, that's how you get to the why would someone sell their house with me? Because you're marketing, not even the house sometimes, you're marketing yourself. So I think that's, like, instrumental when it comes to business nowadays, and where it's people want to know you, people want to trust you, people want to understand that you're empathetic to their needs and, you know, their ups and downs. And particularly in real estate, you're introducing someone to this new home where they might have their first child, and their kids are going to grow up and have the memories on the swing set in the back with dad flipping burgers on the grill and mom yelling at them to pick up their shoes. Like, these are all places that memories are born. And since you lived that, obviously, with your young family early on in your real estate journey, I think that's, like, just brings on such a different element when it comes to you and the relationships you have with your clients, but also the way that you market yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little complex, and that there's a bunch of different ways you can answer this. You can do the general real estate agent way, which is what everybody says is, I love helping families, and I love real estate. Oh, I love looking at houses. I love architecture, and so I think I'd be really good at this. And then you get a little further, and I love helping people get to the next level of all that different stuff. The reason why we talk a lot about marketing is because if you've been in this business long enough, you realize there's a lot of real estate agents. So a lot of times, I'd say more than 80% of the time, people use whoever it is they used prior, right? I used this person in the past, I'm going to use this person again. Or a friend of mine knows somebody, so they just refer me, and that's who I use. Sometimes I get a postcard in the mail, and I'll call the number, and that's how I have the relationship. But that's the majority of the way people, because real estate license is not like you out of school for 8 years.
Yeah.
So it's looked at as a service that a lot of people can get this license and whatever. So we talk about marketing. It's a way to differentiate ourselves. So I'm gonna break this down for you a little bit and why and how I answered that question, and I'll put the whole thing together. When I say to you, why would somebody work with you? This is also something I work a lot on, and I'll get to where I'm going with all this. But How would you answer that?
Because they can trust me and they can trust me to care about their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the most important thing to me when it comes to any type of relationship, but particularly a professional relationship. I won't sugarcoat it for them.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I'm in there with the trenches with them, and, it's my job not to get emotional during, certain challenges throughout the process of whatever we're doing. And that's where I can be their steady hand.
I'm going to break this in because everything's context, right?
Yeah.
Here's the context of this question. We're doing a listing presentation, right?
Okay.
You're the agent and I'm seller. And I say to you, why would I list my house with you? And you say to me what you just said, right? Would you say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say we just met. We're not even at a listing presentation on our couch, but we just met and we're at a bar or whatever. And I say, why would I list my house with you? Let's say you say the same thing. And that's cool.
Yeah.
And that works. But if somebody is interviewing other agents or has an idea, how many other agents do you think say, I care the most, I'm the hardest worker, you should trust me, I'm the best marketer, I'm number one? They all say it.
Yeah.
Everybody says it.
Yeah. It's true.
So you're like, well, okay. So I go to keynotes and I ask this question of hundreds of people in the audience. They all say the same thing. The way you're supposed to do this, and this is why it's a little bit of a trick question, is that you're supposed to say, well, why are you looking to sell? Because you are answering questions just out of the blue, just whatever top of your mind. You have no idea what you're talking about or who you're talking to or anything. You're just saying things. Of course you're a good guy. Of course you work hard.
Yeah.
Of course you care. Of course. So when I say these things is the way that you help people the most is you can't even help them unless they ask for you to help them, and they don't even ask for you to help them if they don't know who you are, and they can't even get to that point unless you know who you're talking to and why you're talking to them.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the better answer would have been like, listen, I don't even know if I can help you. Let me better understand your situation.
It's like when I get the questions like, how's the market, Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, market's crazy.
Yeah. People always just
Fantastic.
that's their natural
That's great.
response.
Right. Well, are you a buyer or seller?
Yeah.
Where do you live? How am I supposed to answer these questions without knowing? But whether you're a salesperson or not a salesperson, immediately what you do is you try to justify yourself. You try to sell yourself. You're trying to sell all these different things. And people, when you're on the other side of that and they don't know you,
yeah,
there's no trust there yet. That doesn't. So you can't speak to. Our job is to solve somebody's problem.
Right.
I would say my clients, I care deeply about everything that they're going through. But my initial conversation with anybody is always going to be, I want to know what your situation is and what is your problem before I tell you all the great things I do. So that is always how I frame everything. There has to be an understanding, a deep understanding of like 3 levels deep. Why are you looking to sell? What happens if you don't sell within a certain amount of time? Where are you looking to go after? So I need to understand what's going on with your life. What's happening? Is this even the best situation for you? I can't, and then obviously my expertise comes after I know all of that. But that's why I say, once we get to that point of like, okay, now let's talk about marketing and why I market. If after I know why and they need the services, the marketing part of it is, to me, it's increasing value through perception. Our job as marketers, yes, going and finding a house and making sure I understand their best needs and all this stuff, that's all what we're just kind of talked about. But the idea of how do you market a property, I always felt like, and I deeply study this from other forms of sales. Art is one of those things. Art is one of those things where, especially in high-end homes, which is something I like to specialize in, art is one of those things that's very subjective pieces that can sell for a lot of money. And what they do in art is they take a piece of art and they look at all the people that could possibly be interested in this thing, and then they put them in a room, and then they create an emotional situation where the highest possible amount of money that could be paid for that thing is paid for it. Well, it doesn't really happen in real estate, because in real estate, whoever picks this number, however it gets picked, goes on this thing with all the other things, and then whenever anybody gets around to ringing anybody on the phone to come see something, it's just not the most efficient way to sell something.
Yeah.
So we know that most people look at Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and they have a little thumbnail and there's a little picture. But people start analytically, right? Like, boom, boom, boom. I'm with 3 beds, 2 baths. Here's my budget. Then all of a sudden, all these things pop up. And then you're like looking at each one for about 3 seconds, deciding whether or not that picture matches that number. And if it does, cool, I got some more pictures to swipe. And then it gets to, whoa, I'm sharing this.
Yeah.
Now you're sharing it, and now there's an emotion. So we buy emotionally, we justify logically. So what your job is as a marketer is to take the product for all the things that it is, not for what it isn't, and highlight it to make it look the best, whether that's video. I'm a personal fan of incredible photography because that's how most people see it first. But then following it up with an incredible lifestyle video that matches what that consumer most wants to see and what it is that they're connecting with and why. So that's really important. Like if this is a family home, a downsizer, who is it? And it created that kind of emotional connection. So our first job is to create value through the art of perception. And that's what we do for the way that we talk, the way that we dress, the way that we show the home, the way that we talk about it, the platforms that it goes on, and the way that it looks. That's all perception. It's the Ferrari on the side of the road versus the Ferrari in the Ferrari dealership. Same car. You're getting a premium on one and you're going to get a discount on another, is what you think. So, and that's what you get paid as a real estate agent. We get no money up front. We're fronting all these costs because we're pouring everything we have into helping this seller get the most amount of money for their property, be in the best situation to solve the problem. So that's why marketing is so important, because it's really the differentiator of really good marketers versus a regular agent who does the basic bare bones stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the difference of maybe pushing it 5, 10, 15, 25% more in a market to set records and to get your clients more money. But nobody will even know that if they've never heard of you. And nobody will even hire you unless you know what their problems are. And so that's why the conversation started, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And it's funny, man, because I know like a bunch of different realtors. I know them as people, and then I've worked with a couple as well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep it real with you. Like, I had a friend, and he's a good friend. I love him. And one of the things when we were selling my dad's house, and I never really had this conversation with him, and if he listens to this episode, he might think I'm throwing a little shade, but at the end of the day, I think it's important to see like how it played out on my vantage point, where it was a very much a speed transaction.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, my dad didn't really have a place to live. And the close was coming up, and it would have been cool if like that component was given more attention. Not that it's his, I'm not asking, someone to, house my dad, obviously, but the timing was very rushed, and, he did a great job. He marketed it well. He got some good offers. Boom, boom. It was done. Like the process was very well done, but at the end of it, it kind of did put my dad in a jam. Because now these people want to move in quickly. Now he needs to find a place quickly. So he didn't really have the luxury of really seeing, an expansive amount of options when it came to where he wanted to live next. And it is what it is. But I do notice that in real estate, there are those types of agents who, I guess they're more, I wouldn't say hand holders, as much as they're on top of every component of the process and also very aware of what's next for their client, which is what you alluded to. And then there's more volume-based realtors who are boom, boom, churn, churn, numbers. And it's funny because when you look at their social media, some of them are touting numbers, some of them are touting experience. And I think those are two different approaches, and you're also targeting different types of clients where speed might be a factor, or you're targeting investors who are looking to just buy, flip, convert, as opposed to people who are looking for the homes to settle in and want it to be well thought out and want it to fit their family and care about the feeling more so than the value. Does that make sense?
100%. I mean, how people use social media in real estate is a whole world in itself, because there's a lot of people that just post on social media and they just post because they think they're supposed to.
Yeah.
I think that it's hard in our business in that we forget as real estate agents that if you post this testimonial, it's maybe 5% as effective or impactful as you think it is.
Yeah.
That so many people are in their own world. They don't care about your world. They care about if you can get some. You will get people on your radar when you start showing that you can solve their direct problems. That's when people will care about you. But nobody cares about you or even what you did for somebody else unless it directly solves their problem. So, and the other issue with our business is this is not baseball. This is not a statistics-driven. I'm sorry, it is statistic-driven. It's not baseball where there's a clear-cut necessarily winner. We have a real estate market where who's the best? Who's the best? The person? Would you say the person who sells the most?
Yeah.
Would you sell the person that sells the highest? Are they really the best?
No, I'm not answering
No,
that.
I'm just saying that's what's hard is because it's what you realize is as you go and higher and higher and higher, the reason why I think people post stats is that I think that they're feeling like somebody else might say, well, who's the best? Well, they have the highest, so they must be the best. I just want the best. I want the best surgeon. I want the best financial advisor. I want the best whoever. So who's the best? Well, there can only be one, top one, right?
Yeah.
So where do you land in everything else? So that's why posting stats is cool and stuff. I mean, that's mainly for other real estate agents that are going to see that. And posting testimonials is cool. But that's, again, that's great. That's why still 80% of all real estate agents are either you've used them before or they're just referred.
Yeah.
So where does that leave that 10, 20%? You got a 25,000. You did 25 million this year. I got to call that person. Oh, that you said you helped Susie around the corner. I read that testimonial. I got to call that person. No, people only will be on that radar when you start talking about the solutions to their direct problems. You don't know their problems unless you can ask that question. So why are you looking? What's your situation? So if you can't ask the question, then you have to assume. So again, it's what's really hard about the real estate and the stats game and the testimonial game is you're trying to like hit everything instead of just basically saying, yeah, there are agents who just care about doing numbers.
Quick break to shout out our sponsor, Relive the Moments. Founded by John Lim, they're redefining how we share memories. From tap-to-play photo frames to interactive coasters, they turn ordinary objects into powerful, shareable experiences. Perfect for weddings, events, or milestone moments. Relive, reconnect, reimagine. Check them out at www.relivethemoments.com. Now back to the show. Listen, I love that answer because, numbers do add credibility, but probably the most meaningful relationships, and I think in any sales environment, are the ones that are generated via referral, the ones that are coming from someone who vouches for you.
Correct.
I think nowadays those are like gold because of also the changing landscape of the way people are marketing when they are doing it on social media. And it's so hard to tell what's real and what's not. And a lot of people aren't who they say they are on social media, which can cause confusion within the marketplace, especially if, you're an older homeowner who is, selling their family home and they, they're on Facebook, to interact with their grandchildren. And all of a sudden they see some realtor and it's like, oh, this young man looks nice. And meanwhile, this young man may not even have their interest. They're just trying to make a sale. The other thing that you're talking about is also, like, how do you figure out who's the best? Maybe there is this, one realtor, in a high net worth area where he's selling higher home values but less units. So is he the best? Or is it the person who's, churning out sales and whatnot? But, I really, when it comes to sales in general, it's all about relationships. It's all about how you make someone feel when they meet you for that initial, consultation, how you make them feel when you answer the questions. I think empathy has a lot to do with it. I think the desire to really meet somebody where they are and, like you said, understand their needs, understand their expectations, and also understand that it's an emotional process for them, and that's how I kind of, approach most relationships. I really try to meet people where they are, and it has been successful. But, it also can leave you out a little open as well. But I'm willing to do that if it's going to be a long-lasting, meaningful relationship.
Because I work with so many people that come from so many different backgrounds, and they tend to be higher end professionals. So these are top people that have done really well. It doesn't mean I only do that. Of course, I work with, I'll sell $200,000 houses, $500,000 houses. But when you do start getting into upper echelon types of people, I realize there are a bunch of different types of buyers and sellers. And especially when you start to get to higher end, they're motivated differently. Different personalities are motivated differently. So the higher end is not as motivated by the bells and whistles and saving or making a little bit more money. They're more motivated by the fear of loss. Meaning like, I would rather not lose than make a little bit more. So I'm going to go to the sure thing, the guaranteed thing, and I really don't want to look bad in front of a lot of other people that I am now peers with. Whereas on some of the lower price points, they don't care as much about that. It's like, oh, I can make a couple of dollars more. They're still aspirational in what it is that they can get. So sometimes they'll work with different agents that may be discounted, or they'll look for different kind of people who maybe are a little bit different. But again, I think that there's the marketing in the beginning that might attract a certain type of person. And then there's the conversation that we have about how we work together that makes you feel comfortable with what it is that I'm doing. And then there's the actual process. When I get the ball, do I make it happen? And then have I done such a great job that you were like, this was amazing, and I stay in touch with that person, and we become not friends, but necessarily I am now in that Rolodex. I am like the doctor. I am like the other person that they use. And I think that the other thing to keep in mind is that when you're doing this with people and we're asking questions like, why are you looking to sell and do different stuff? People always think rapport is basically saying like, oh, you like fishing? I like fishing. Or you like golfing? I like golfing. And there's no better trust that happens when that doesn't happen, but someone is so locked in to your problem and listening. And then they actually come out with a solution that makes sense. That's what people want. And I also use the analogy a lot of times with people of like, let's say, God forbid, you ever had to have a surgery or you needed something and it was important. You're not interviewing people based on their personality. You don't care. You're like, hey, if this really helps me, you can be a jerk to me all you want, but if you're going to help me, fine, I'll take that. And that's a stretch of a thought, but it is come down to how do we make ourselves as good as we could be and show that we're really great at what we're doing, but at the same time bringing that personality to it. So I personally believe it really all comes down to fully understanding and being able to solve that person's problem best. Effectiveness, and not just I'm here because I've sold 10,000 other homes. Yes, I could show that that's proof of concept, that it all works. But at the end of the day, I have to find out what is your thing? Where are you at? What is it now and long term that it puts you in the best position? So I have to ask a couple of questions deep. And then, like as a networker for yourself, right? Like that's also something that I learned a lot about was doing on listing presentations and talking to high-end people that are in different personality types. Yeah. Because not everybody's the same. So, hey, sit on my couch. You have 15 minutes. Tell me how much my house is worth and tell me how much, tell me whatever. Tell me, well, you're put on the spot, figure out how you're going to answer that question and people's timelines and everything like that. So there's a lot that goes into it, but caring is really about, do you understand their problem and can you solve it?
Yeah. From my experience in luxury markets, it's really communicating directly, like a lot of the folks in luxury markets, they know what it's like to be sold. They know what it's like they don't need the fluff. They want answers. And they are very quick to determine whether you can solve their problems. And once they've made that determination, they move on. That's something that I have been a brunt to, but also now have learned to navigate. It's like, this is the necessary information you need to know to make a good decision. And these are the problems I can solve for you, period. because it's all about speed when it comes to the luxury market. Because I look at it as, people in the luxury market have less time because their calendars are very full, and I mean, that's been my experience. And when, not even that they have less time, I think there is an expectation that their time is respected, if that makes sense. So for me, it's all right. The fastest, I need to present this in a way that you could make a very fast decision, and in a way that obviously solves your problem. And that's really when I've had the most success with luxury markets, frankly.
If that's what they want.
Yeah.
And you don't know any of that until you start asking those questions.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get into a situation of like, there's people who don't want to answer questions.
Yeah.
So there's ways around that too. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, high end price points, low end price points, whatever. At the end of the day, I don't want to do the business and I don't want to be in this business if I can't be ethical, if I can't actually care, and if I can't do it the way I want to do it. There's a lot of people that tell me all the time, hey, you know what? Don't spend as much money on your marketing. Do a little bit less. Do this, do that. And it's like, well, no, I know that I am the most impactful the way I do things because I do care and I do want it to be great and I do want it to be good for people. And if I ever have to change that so I can sell 1,000 homes a year, I don't know. Maybe I probably won't be in the business. I don't think I could do it that way.
Yeah.
I'm still a kindergarten teacher at heart. I still think everybody is, and that is a problem at times because I do want everybody to be just good people. And I do want everything to just, I still am, my wife's a teacher, my mom's a teacher, my dad's a teacher, I was a teacher. We're still just educators who just still have principle and ethics and just still want to, give. And so that part's in me. And I don't think I ever want to change that. And if it means that it's changing me because of the business, I don't know.
It's funny that you say that because the conversations we had about doing panels, about putting together events, and it all makes sense now with the educational background because you want to obviously, convey your brand. But one of the things that our conversations have always yielded is like, there's a lot of information that I also want to get out there. And now it makes sense because that speaks to the educator side of you, to create these spaces that not only are people getting familiar with you and your brand and, how you work, but also they're getting a plethora of information from folks, you've worked with and the knowledge that they have in their respective fields. So this all makes sense now.
Figured me out.
Yeah. I figured you out, bro. I want to, kind of a full circle moment, obviously, transitioning from working as a coach and then now transitioning into the real estate space now, with Rebecca as your wife and now you have a child. Talk about that work-life balance.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. And I got 2 of them and a dog. So, I have 2 incredibly different but amazing blessings from God of with my boys.
Yeah.
And I won't talk to them about it very much because I get probably choked up. I am very blessed in them and my family. That's my the biggest thing was we talked about before. How do you shut it off? When you, and I don't know if you can really ever. I've tried certain times to shut it off. What I realized is that you could try to make all the money that you want and all the money you can, and I've knock on wood, it's been well and done well and continue to keep striving. But there's certain times when you're humbled in that they don't care about that and they just want to play with you. Mm-hmm. And you're like, you're face to face a lot of times with like, I could work right now or I could play, just like when I was a kid. But then you have so much ingrained work in you that like you just want to go. So work-life balance is is hard. I've definitely gotten better at it, and I'm definitely lucky, and my wife is incredibly able to support the work that I'm willing to do and work that I'm doing. And I worked a lot years ago, hard. So it's a little different now in how I structure my business. Doesn't mean I don't work as hard, but like, I appreciate the time that I spend with my family, and because of my wife and my kids, I take the vacations, we go on things because that's what's important, as opposed to not doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we'll ever have a work-life balance. I don't know if it's balance. It's just understanding how to ride the tide one way or the other and not getting too emotional on it. Like if you know you're going that way, you could fight it and then you get resentful over how hard you're going in one direction, or you can understand that this is a tide and everything swings.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ride this and take it the other way. And if you've managed your family life, I mean, as good as you could to prepare everybody and they see how you handle those things, I think that opens that for what people get.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I know that like I need to work on this year, in stark contrast from last year, is because I found myself a lot of times last year being, you know, with family, right? But in my head, I'm not here, you know.
Or you feel guilty that you're not working.
Yeah. I have this checklist of things that need to get done.
Yeah.
That's all I'm obsessing over in my head. And while I don't think there's really any real such thing as balance, because at the end of the day, if you're pouring into one side of your life, another side of your life is going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can do is commit myself to being present in whichever moment I'm in. So even if it's like 5 minutes with family and 55 minutes working, those 5 minutes, I'm going to be the most present that I can possibly be in each avenue of my life. And I think that's how I am going to prioritize things this year, because that's really important. And people know when you're not present, and people know when you have other things on your mind. And it's just something I know I need to be more conscious of, because when you are present in those moments, you make the people around you feel special and you make them feel appreciated. And it's important to do that.
I think I 100% agree with you. And my wife is amazing at helping me, you know, hey, let's be present, let's be with the boys and stuff. I think what I struggled with when I would do that in the past was I would feel guilty if I couldn't get completely. So it became like a fight.
Yeah.
Be present. And you're like, oh, come on. And especially if you're a highly intelligent person like yourself, whose mind knows itself so well, you know every trick, man. There's no way you're going to outduel it. So it'll beat you every time. So sometimes it's okay to feel that. And so I stopped trying to beat myself up over it all the time. And I guess the way I kind of look at it is the thing that I'm doing now something that I'll regret doing later? I can't stop myself from feeling it, right? So it's like, okay, if I'm going to choose to not spend time with my family, is the outcome of this thing something that I won't regret having used that time for? Now, if let's say I don't work as much because my time now is spent on making a core memory with my son playing Legos.
Love Legos.
Okay. Legos is great. I either have to accept that my brain in the back is going to go, could have made money right now and we could have taken that trip to Florida with that money, but instead you chose Legos. The other part of my brain is going to go, yeah, but you know what? I'm never on my deathbed going to say, yeah, I'm fine when I didn't play Legos. Whatever. I'm always gonna be like, man, I wish I would have played Legos. So as long as the outcome answer is always what I would have defaulted to, I'm okay. And then you just got to let the rest kind of be the voice, because highly intelligent people have a really difficult mental time a lot of times with that mental gymnastics. Yeah. It's so, and it never stops. And it's just kind of becoming aware. And when I was younger, I was like, what's wrong with me? And then now as I'm older, I'm realizing that this is just how it works. So more you can harness it and use it a little bit and not be mad all the time that it's not going, that you're not making it go the way that you want it to go. It's not how it works. Again, it's all perspective and it's all purpose. And, you know, yeah, I'm here to make money to provide for my family, and I do that by helping other people. But at the end of the day, I get X amount of time with my kids or a pet or a loved one or time. And as long as that thing that I'm doing is the correct answer to that end of life thing, fine.
I love that.
You know, because you don't know what the rest, you could have worked that day instead of being present with your family, said no. And then God forbid this thing happens. And what was the point of the work?
Yeah.
What was the point of that? But you're never going to have regretted that time with that family.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And, you know, I love that, man. So I want to ask you a question. I ask everybody this question. What does the word purpose mean to you?
And the answer is probably what everybody says. Well, purpose changes across life as life goes on. And my purpose was different in my 20s. Of course. I think meaning and purpose and all that different stuff, man, that's a mixed bag. I think if you're a believer in faith, if you're faith-based and you're religious, I guess, you know, some people would say to serve and be the best that you could be. I think that we're all, I think I can speak for now, is that I have humans that are the most important thing to me, that at the end of the day, if you took everything away from me, and money was not a thing, and we nobody had technology, you would go to those humans and you would try to protect them. That is instinctual. That is like who we are. So I think now and then forever, the purpose is to be with those people and be the best you can for them and give them the best forever. And I fought that because I think people think, well, my purpose is to write a book. My purpose and meaning is to do all these different things. And that's fine. For some people, it really might be. But at the core essence of it all, our purpose is to take care of and love into those people that if none of this was here, that's what we would be doing. I think, I do that forever until we're not here, because that's how we got here in the first place. And that's how it's going to keep going. So in 100 years, the podcast or whatever they're doing will probably end up around the same.
Yeah. I love that, man. What advice would you give to someone on that journey of finding purpose?
I think I read one of the questions that you sent, which is basically like, do you uncover purpose or do you make purpose? And I think the whole purpose thing it's too easy. Like you're just unpacking it, like, oh look, the purpose now. I found that. Like it's not how it works. This whole thing we're on, we're 28 years old until our brain's fully developed. So what do you call that up to 28? And then if you don't have a family or any other human being that you're taking care of, or people that you fall in love with or have, or pets or anything, so you don't have them. So how is that even working over 75, 100 years in your life? I think that we're all doing the best we can. We all have to give ourselves grace. And I think that you just find some basic core tenets in this life that you can feel pretty secure that it sticks to. Like I said, like if the thing I'm doing right now, if you stripped it all away, I'd be okay with taking that time to do. If the people that at the end of the day matter most, I pour into, I feel like pretty good on that. I feel like I have my faith base, and you start checking off the boxes. And you start realizing that some of those boxes that you don't check off, that don't make that top list, are the things that you think are important. Yeah. And the thing that you thought purpose was to get 100,000 followers on social media, or to create a thing that everybody saw and was motivated by all these different people, might not be the thing that you think is purpose or meaning. I think it's really doing that work inside to just kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, and realize that that mental exercises of start stripping stuff away, that if it was gone tomorrow, what would you still run to? Like start stripping it all away, take it all down. And if it was like, this is gone, this aspiration of money and all these different things were gone, like what would that be like? Who would you be around and what would you be doing? And, and you never get to that. And like one way, is like, if you ever had somebody be sick around you, someone that you love's hurt or something like that. Wow, you want to talk about changing things real quick? Like, then you start to realize, like, oh, okay, maybe this is kind of where I'm supposed to be. And your job doesn't have to be your purpose. So like you can have your purpose, like for me as my family, the vehicle of selling real estate or being on social media or whatever, you could have love-hate relationships with your vehicle, and that vehicle might change. But the end result of the thing is always what the end purpose or I think meaning of it all is.
I love that.
So I don't know if that answered anything, but
no,
sure.
I think that was great, man. Michael Ferraro, thank you, thank you, bro.
Thanks for having me, man.
If you can, please talk to my audience. You can talk to this camera and just let them know what you're up to and what's coming up and how they can reach you.
Yeah, so I'm a full-time real estate agent in Connecticut, Fairfield County, New Haven County. So if obviously the cliche thing is if you have buyer or seller needs or anything like that, you can go to ferrarorealestate.com. Check me out on Instagram, Michael Ferraro CT. But at the end of the day, just wish everybody all the best. And I watch me on the socials, and I can't thank you enough. And I never had to do that, like talk in front of a camera and say all the things I'm up to. Like, I don't know.
Thank you, man. I mean, I really appreciate you coming down. I really appreciate like our young friendship and growing it. And I think we could do a lot of cool things together. A couple shout outs, guys, I want to make. I do want to thank Claudio and Justin here over at Kai Visions. If you need any marketing, you need to start a podcast, you need any sort of content, coverage for events, feel free to reach out directly to me or at Kai Visions. In my January newsletter, there was a opportunity for you to receive a $250 credit should you commit to a 20 episode package or higher. Once again, reach out to me directly or reach out to Claudio at Kai Visions. Purpose in the email subject line, and you can take advantage of that promotion. Additionally, I want to thank John Lim over here at Relive the Moments. They are been an incredible sponsor, incredible support. They do technologies that you can incorporate into any of your events, your marketing. Feel free to reach out directly to me to connect you with John and his team. And last but not least, I do want to thank all of you who have been watching and listening over the past 90 plus episodes. Feel free to visit www.adamvora.com to learn more of A, upcoming events, B, the opportunity to work one-on-one with me with coaching with the Core Shift program. That's available. There are limited slots available for that, but I'd love to hear you and connect with you and see how I can help you. www.adamvora.com, at adamvora_ on Instagram. And yeah, till next time, folks.